Are you still asking AI one question at a time, waiting for the answer, tweaking your prompt, then asking the next one? If so, you've probably noticed that the real bottleneck isn't the machine's speed, it's you. The constant switching, the mental effort of course correcting, the sheer tedium of repeating similar tasks one by one. Most people treat these powerful tools like an oracle they have to consult for every single decision. But the real unlock, the way to compress hours of fragmented work into minutes of focused flow, is to stop being an operator and start being an architect. It's time to stop asking for one-off answers and start building a tiny factory. This feeling of being the bottleneck isn't just in your head, it's one of the most expensive hidden costs in knowledge work. A well-known field study from the University of California, Irvine found that after the average interruption, it takes a staggering 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back to your original task. Every time you switch from your document to the prompt, back to the document, you pay that tax. Now consider the opposite. In 2009, a landmark global health study introduced a simple 19-item surgical checklist into 8 hospitals. The results were stunning. Post-operative complications fell by 36%, deaths fell by 47%. The surgeons didn't suddenly get smarter, the work simply got structured. That's the power of a system. It reduces both errors and the mental load of remembering what comes next. The mental model for this shift comes from the world of big data, but it's beautifully simple. It's called MapReduce. Imagine you have a library of 1,000 books and your job is to count every instance of the word courage. You wouldn't read all 1,000 books yourself, one after another. That's the slow, serial way. Instead, you'd hire 1,000 assistants. You'd give each assistant one book and one simple identical instruction, count the word courage, and report the total. That first step, running the same simple task across many items in parallel, is the map stage. Then you'd simply collect all 1,000 reports and add them up to get your grand total. That second step, combining all the structured results into a final answer, is the reduce stage. This is the factory logic we can now apply to our own work. Let's make this real. Imagine you're a solo marketer with 120 new product descriptions to write before a big launch. The old way would be a full day of painful, repetitive writing. The factory way is different. First, you design a 3-stage assembly line. Stage 1 is the drafter. You create a template that ingests a product's raw specs, size, material, key feature, and outputs a 90-word description. The template is specific. It must highlight 3 core benefits and include a legally compliant disclaimer at the end. Once all 120 drafts are done in parallel, they flow to Stage 2, the style normalizer. This template's only job is to enforce brand voice. It rewrites passive sentences into active ones, replaces jargon like utilize with use, and checks that the reading level is appropriate for your audience. Finally, the polished drafts hit Stage 3, the compressor. This stage creates 2 final assets from each description, a 150-character snippet for social media and 5 metadata tags for search optimization. The result? A full day's work, including all the variations and formatting, is completed in about 15 minutes of compute time, followed by a 20-minute human spot check of anything the system flagged. You didn't just save time, you achieved a higher level of consistency. Here's another example. A researcher has 200 pages of dense interview transcripts to synthesize. Instead of rereading them endlessly, they split the document into 20 manageable chunks. Then they build their map stage, a template designed to act like a research assistant. Its instruction is to read a chunk of text and extract only specific things, any strong claim made by the interviewee, the direct quote that supports it, a confidence score from low to high, and the page number it came from. The output isn't a paragraph, it's a clean, structured piece of data for each claim. This is run on all 20 chunks in parallel. Now for the reduce stage. Instead of feeding all 200 pages of raw text into a final prompt, the researcher feeds only the structured claim objects. The final prompt's instruction is different. Analyze these structured claims, Group duplicates, identify the 9 most recurring themes, and flag any direct contradictions. Because the input is already clean and organized, the model can focus on high-level synthesis instead of low-level extraction. The final output is a report of 9 core themes, each with supporting quotes and precise page citations. It's a level of traceable, defensible insight that ad hoc chatting could never produce. Ready to build your own? Here's a mini playbook. Your first and most important step is to define your schema. That just means deciding on the exact slots you need, filled for every single item. Is it fact, source, confidence? Or product, benefit, reason why, target customer? Be ruthless about clarity. Ambiguity is the enemy of scale. If a field can be interpreted in 2 ways, the model will eventually get it wrong, and your entire batch will be inconsistent. Write it down before you write a single prompt. Step 2. Write a rubric with concrete examples. Show the model exactly what a perfect output looks like. But don't stop there. Also provide examples of what to avoid. This is called providing negative constraints, and it's one of the most powerful ways to improve reliability. For a style normalizer, you might show good, changes passive voice to active, bad, rewrites technical terms into confusing simple language. These examples act as guardrails that keep the model's performance from drifting over time. Step 3 is to create a small batch of 5 to 10 test cases before you run your full workload. Crucially, you should intentionally include tricky edge cases. What happens with missing data? What about an input that's ambiguous? The goal is to make the model fail fast and small so you can fix the template before you've wasted time and money on a huge batch run. Once your test cases are passing reliably, and only then are you ready to scale. Finally, the professional move: add a separate verification pass as its own stage in the factory. After you extract a fact, for example, run a second, simpler model on the output. Its only job is to answer a yes or no question. Given the original text and this extracted fact, does the source truly support the claim? This quality control step is remarkably effective at catching subtle hallucinations or misinterpretations. You run the line, you verify the outputs, and you only spend your own attention on the small number of items that get flagged for review. It's easy to get fixated on the raw speed. If a single task takes 20 seconds, and you can run 20 of them at once, a batch of 60 items finishes in about 60 seconds instead of 20 minutes. That's great, but it's not the most important benefit. The true unlock is removing yourself as the cognitive bottleneck. The machine does the context switching so you don't have to. You get to stay in a state of deep focus, architecting the system, and then reviewing the results with a clear head. It's about reclaiming your attention. Now, a few crucial guardrails. This factory approach isn't a silver bullet. First, remember that costs, rate limits, and latency are real-world constraints. Monitor your spending and start with smaller batches to understand the throughput of your system before scaling up. Second, be extremely careful with sensitive or confidential data. A batch process can amplify a data leak in an instant. Ensure you have the right privacy and security controls in place before processing anything you wouldn't want made public. Third, not every task can be neatly split apart. Developing a novel creative strategy or a complex legal argument often requires continuous, interdependent thought. For those tasks, a tight feedback loop with smaller steps is better than a big parallel batch. So here is the reframe. Stop chasing one perfect answer from an oracle. Start designing a small, reliable factory that you can trust. The process is simple. Define your schema, build your templates with clear examples, test on edge cases, and then run your work in batches with a separate pass for verification. This shift in thinking from operator to architect is what turns trying harder into running the play. It gives you back your time, your focus, and your energy for the work that truly matters. Structure is freedom. If this idea shifted how you think about your work, tap the subscribe button for more ideas worth sharing. We focus on the mental models and frameworks that help you think and live more effectively. Drop a like if this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.